"Eric, can you step into the office a minute?" That was all Dave said. No eye contact, no small talk. Just a quick jerk of the head toward conference room B, the one with the tinted windows and the speakerphone no one knew how to mute. Inside, Karen from HR was already seated. Legal pad on the table, pen uncapped. She didn't smile. Dave took the seat across from her, motioned for me to close the door. I did, sat down, and waited. After 18 years, you learn not to flinch first. "Eric," Dave started, smoothing the front of his shirt like it might help. "This isn't easy. As part of our cost optimization strategy, we've made the difficult decision to eliminate certain senior roles." He paused. I didn't say anything. "Your position is among them. This is effective today." No warning, no notice, no handover. I just nodded once. Not slow, not fast. Just enough to show I'd heard him. Karen slid a folder across the table. "You'll find the details of your severance package, benefits continuation, and final paycheck." I didn't touch it. Dave kept going, like momentum might soften the blow. "This isn't about performance, it's strictly financial. You've been with us a long time and we appreciate that." Appreciate. That's what they called 18 years now. I looked at both of them. "Understood," I said. Karen seemed relieved, like tears or yelling might have complicated her afternoon. Dave nodded. "You can take an hour to gather your things." I stood, no handshake, no thank you. Just the sound of the fluorescent lights and the faint hum of the air conditioner that never quite worked. As I walked back toward the floor, I passed new hires I'd trained, engineers I'd helped on board, systems I'd helped design. They didn't know yet. Word travels fast, but not that fast. Back at my workstation, I sat for a moment. The machines were still running, unaware. Everything looked normal. I opened the bottom drawer, pulled out the small wooden box my daughter made in 5th grade shop class, and started packing. No anger, no pleading, just quiet. They thought they'd seen the last of me. They were wrong. I started on the line in the summer of 2005, third shift, $13.25 an hour. 6 days a week, 7 when someone called out. No degree, just a solid pair of boots, and the name Eric stitched onto my chest. The machines were louder then, temperamental, prone to jamming every few hours. Back when safety manuals were held together with binder clips and everyone smoked behind the dumpsters on break, I kept my head down, learned fast, watched how the veterans did things and how they didn't, took notes, asked questions no one else bothered with. 3 months in, I could diagnose a hydraulic pressure issue by sound. 6 months in, I was running diagnostics the engineers didn't understand. A year later, I was training guys older than me. In 2009, they promoted me to shift supervisor. Said it was because of my numbers, downtime cut by 27%, scrap rate halved, turnover down. Truth was, it was because I stayed late, covered shifts, and never said no. I built that trust like I built everything else, quietly, piece by piece. By 2014, I was leading production. The floor reported to me unofficially at first, then on paper, when the old manager retired and no one else wanted the headache. I implemented workflow protocols that reduced changeover delays by hours each week. Saved the company 6 figures a quarter, easy. I wrote the SOPs we still use, created the safety compliance checklist the auditors now ask for by name. I didn't care about titles, I cared about things running right. The crew respected me, not because I barked orders, but because I knew what I was doing. I didn't just tell them how to fix things, I showed them why the fix mattered. Guys who started as temps now own homes and take vacations. That meant more to me than any performance bonus I never got. Upper management changed hands 5 times. Each new VP brought a new buzzword: lean, agile, Six Sigma, vertical integration. I smiled, nodded, kept production running. They gave me plaques, I gave them results. But somewhere along the way, I stopped being an asset. Became a line item, too experienced, too steady, too expensive. They saw cost. I'd been the engine, and they just pulled the plug. The box filled faster than I expected. A few framed photos. My lucky wrench, the old one with the worn grip I never actually used but kept on the shelf like a quiet superstition. The small Bluetooth speaker I brought in on weekends to play Springsteen when we ran late. 2 manuals I'd written myself, spiral-bound with color-coded tabs. No one would read them now. I worked in silence, didn't need a goodbye party, didn't want one. Across the floor, heads started turning, word had spread. A few crew leads stopped by, awkward and unsure. "You serious?" Pete asked, still in his orange vest from the loading dock. "You're just gone?" "Apparently I cost too much," I said, half smiling. "Efficiency's a liability now." He didn't laugh. Maria from maintenance came over and hugged me before I could object. 18 years, Eric. You kept this place running." I shrugged. "You will now." She wiped her eyes, nodded once, walked away. The new guy showed up at 2:45, tall, clean-cut, rolled-up sleeves and a watch that probably cost more than my first car. MBA type, I figured, clipboard in hand, eager. His name was Colin. Dave brought him over like I hadn't already figured it out. "Colin will be shadowing you for the rest of the afternoon," he said, not meeting my eye. "Just to get oriented." I stared at him. "Oriented for what exactly? My job's been eliminated, remember?" "Just a courtesy," Dave said. "Knowledge transfer." Colin extended a hand. "Big shoes to fill." I didn't shake it, just nodded. "Stay out of the way, keep your ears open, and try not to screw up the sync calibrations. They're more sensitive than they look." He blinked, caught off guard. I didn't explain. By 4 o'clock, I'd cleared my locker, handed in my badge, and walked through the main exit one last time. No speech, no confetti. Just the beep of the turnstile and the sound of forklifts still running inside. Outside, I stood in the lot, looking back at the steel and glass building where I'd spent almost half my life. 18 years of weekends, emergencies, late-night calls, buyouts and reorgs, all traded in for a younger resume and a cheaper salary. They thought I'd go quietly. They were mostly right. That night, I couldn't sleep. The kind of stillness where your thoughts start sorting themselves without permission. I opened my laptop, the one I used for personal projects and old vendor contact lists, navigated to the company's investor portal, public records, earnings reports, shareholder decks. Not that they expected guys like me to look, but I'd always looked. The Q2 earnings call transcript was sanitized as usual. Strong quarter, market confidence, leaner operations, then a line that made me pause. Strategic workforce realignment in non-revenue departments. Non-revenue, that's what they were calling production now. I dug deeper. Executive compensation filings were posted on the same portal. The CFO had gotten a 22% bonus increase this year. The new VP of Operations, brought in last spring, was given a transition incentive of $180,000, plus relocation. Meanwhile, overtime pay had been frozen, and the third shift team was operating 2 people short all month. I opened a spreadsheet, started plugging in numbers, bonus jumps, pay freezes, headcount reductions. Patterns emerged. Departmental budgets had been reallocated in chunks that didn't make operational sense unless you were planning to offload experience and bank the savings. But that wasn't the worst part. In the Q1 filing, buried in a footnote, was mention of a new operational efficiency partner, a consulting firm I'd never heard of, Radix and Grove. Curious, I checked their website. No clear services listed, just vague language about synergy, systems transformation, and operational reinvention. Buzzwords, the kind you use when you're gutting something and don't want to say it out loud. I clicked through the press releases. Turns out Radix had recently helped another manufacturer shut down its Midwest facility, laid off 300, outsourced production overseas. Same phrasing, same strategy. My eyes stayed on the screen, unmoving. This wasn't just trimming costs. This was a takedown in slow motion. The pieces were there, if you knew what to look for. If you'd spent nearly 2 decades inside the machine, listening to its rhythms, watching where it bent under pressure. They thought I'd walk away and disappear. They forgot who built the floor they were standing on and who still knew every corner of it better than they ever would. The call came 2 days later, just after 7 a.m. I was nursing my second cup of black coffee when my phone buzzed. Caller ID, Terry L. Logistics. 15-year veteran, good guy. Knew the floor almost as well as I did. "Eric," he said, skipping hello. "You got a minute?" "Always," I replied, already hearing the tension in his voice. "It's bad," he said. "Worse than we expected. Orders are backing up. No one's updating the cycle tracker, and procurement's pinging us nonstop. 2 trucks got loaded with the wrong spec runs yesterday." I didn't say anything. Let him vent. "Colin doesn't know the shift flow," Terry continued. "Tried to reassign task groups without checking the maintenance logs. Put line 3 into overdrive, even though the spindle drives are overdue for calibration." That explained the alarm I saw on the plant's publicly accessible downtime monitor. I'd set that system up myself. "They're behind on the aerospace orders," Terry added. "We're talking penalty clause territory. Half the floor's either confused or pissed. Nobody's steering." I rubbed my forehead. "They'll blame the floor, not the plan," I said. "Of course they will," he sighed. "They think the system's automated. Plug and play, like you can replace 18 years of know-how with a checklist and a clipboard." "You called anyone else?" "Nope," he said. "Just you." That meant something. "They'll call you soon," Terry said. "Pretend it's a friendly chat. Just wanted your insight. Don't buy it." "I won't," I said. We sat in silence for a moment. Machinery hummed faintly through the line. He was standing in the loading dock. I could tell by the echo. "You keeping notes?" he asked. "More than notes," I said. "Good," he said. "This place may not deserve you, but it needs you." I ended the call and stared out the window. Early sun on concrete. Another day beginning without me. But the plant wasn't running. It was sputtering. Systems I'd built were cracking because the people now running them didn't understand how they breathed. Not my problem anymore, officially, but responsibility doesn't end with a pink slip. That afternoon, I unlocked the steel cabinet in my garage and pulled out an old hard drive, labeled in faded Sharpie, OPS_ARCHIVE_ERIC_FINAL. I plugged it into my laptop and waited for the directories to load. Inside, 16 years of process improvement plans, internal audits, safety assessments, scheduling templates, workaround notes. None of it proprietary, all of it built by me, on my time, for their benefit. I started reviewing it all, slowly, methodically, not out of anger, not even to be vindictive, because I couldn't sit back and let the system collapse, not just for the company, but for the people I'd worked beside, people who still had mortgages, kids, and second jobs. For every one of them, I'd patched systems in silence. I opened the compliance review folder, found documents from 2018, notes about ventilation thresholds in the metalworks bay, a missed safety inspection that I'd quietly fixed without filing an incident. I flagged it. Found maintenance reports on the old conveyor systems, notes showing I'd bypassed a flawed firmware update because it crashed mid-load. No one remembered. No one had thanked me. There were dozens like it. I cataloged them all. Then I opened a new document, System Vulnerability Report, Internal Use. I wasn't writing it for revenge. I was writing it to hold up a mirror. If they wanted to pretend I was just a cost, I'd show them the bill they'd been avoiding. In clear terms, cold, hard numbers, the human cost hidden behind efficiency. Because what they didn't understand was this. I'd been their buffer, their firewall, the one who noticed small cracks before they became structural failures. They thought I was gone, but what I'd built still lived in their systems, and I had every blueprint. Back in 2015, we had a safety scandal, small fire in the paint bay due to improper chemical storage. No injuries, but the auditors nearly shut us down. Legal panicked. So I proposed an internal audit system, trackable, time-stamped, encrypted logs of every equipment bypass, override, and safety exception across the floor. They signed off on it, called it a smart move, then forgot it existed after the press moved on. I didn't. Last week, in the process of cataloging old files, I remembered the protocol, and more importantly, I remembered that access permissions for admin-level audit review weren't managed through HR. They were tied to the engineering sandbox environment, an environment no one had removed me from. Oversight. I logged in at 2:14 a.m. when traffic was lowest and alert triggers were least likely to fire. Same ID, same credentials, still active. Unbelievable. The dashboard was still there, audit logs stretching back 6 years, nested directories by department, time-stamped entries tied to user IDs, everything I needed. I started digging. Within an hour, I found what I was looking for. In the last 90 days, under a directive labeled Phase 2 Cost Review, 5 scheduled preventative maintenance items had been deferred or canceled. 3 of those related to OSHA-regulated safety systems. One was a particulate exhaust scrubber, another a pressure valve check for Line 4's heat seal unit, flagged by me 6 months ago as due for overhaul. They'd skipped it on purpose. There was a comment on the record, pushing valve service to Q3 to align with budget cycle. The signature was digital. Colin M., new lead, my replacement. No one caught it. Or they did and didn't care. I exported the logs, encrypted the files, and backed them up 3 different ways. Then I sat back and stared at the screen. This wasn't just negligence. It was gambling, with time, with safety, with people. And the clock was already ticking. It happened on a Thursday. I was in the garage replacing brake pads when the alert buzzed on my phone. Local news push notification. Injury at Arcadia Components factory. 1 hospitalized following equipment malfunction. I froze. The article was thin on detail. A press release from the company claimed the situation was under control. A single worker injured during routine machine maintenance. No names, no causes. I knew that phrasing. I'd helped write versions of it before. I checked the plant logins, public dashboards I still had bookmarked. Line 4 showed unscheduled downtime. Emergency flag triggered at 11:42 a.m. The heat seal unit, same one with the deferred pressure valve check. I dropped the wrench and opened my files. Compared timestamps. Confirmed the delay. Same machine, same cost-cutting decision. A worker was hurt because they wanted to save a few $1,000s. By 5 p.m., the local news was running shaky footage of ambulances outside the plant. A reporter mentioned an anonymous employee claiming the machine had been flagged for repair weeks ago. The company's statement updated to under investigation. PR kicked in full speed. Generic language, empty empathy, legal safe apologies. I sat on the couch in silence, watching executives scramble through talking points while someone's kid sat in a hospital bed waiting to find out if his hand would ever work the same again. Colin didn't speak to the media, neither did Dave. They stayed quiet and let the comms team spin it. Rare malfunction, unexpected failure, committed to safety. But I knew better. I'd warned them. In logs, in reports, in person. Years of quiet fixes, patches, flaggings, all erased by a spreadsheet with too many green cells and not enough red ones. This wasn't just an accident. This was a consequence. And consequences have a way of showing up, whether you're ready or not. The call came Friday morning at 8:17 a.m. Dave's name lit up my phone like a glitch in the system. I let it ring twice before answering. "Eric," he said, chipper in that way people get when they're pretending not to be underwater. "Hope I'm not catching you at a bad time." "No such thing these days," I replied. A pause. "Listen," he continued, "I wanted to touch base. You know, in light of recent events." "Events," I repeated. "Well, Yes, the incident yesterday. The team's shaken up, obviously. We're doing our best to stabilize things, but... What do you need, Dave? I asked. He coughed once, a forced laugh. Just wanted to see if you might be open to a short-term engagement. Consulting, maybe. Strictly advisory. Your familiarity with the floor, the systems, you know it better than anyone. It was strange hearing that now. Weeks ago, I was just too expensive. Now, I was the missing piece. I'm not interested, I said evenly. We'd compensate you well, he offered. Better than before. Still not interested. He went quiet, then lowered his voice. Off the record, we're in a tough spot. Safety compliance is asking questions. The board's looking over shoulder, everyone's shoulder. We could really use your help smoothing things out. So that was it. Not an olive branch, a sandbag. You didn't need me when it mattered, I said. Why now? You've always been reasonable, Eric. I smiled faintly at that. That's what made me dangerous. Click. I hung up and turned off my phone. Outside, the leaves were starting to fall across the driveway. The season was changing. So was everything else. They were scrambling. But scrambling isn't the same as solving. That night, I opened a new folder on my desktop and named it Sentinel. Inside, I compiled everything. The audit logs, deferred maintenance records, cost-cutting emails. The internal memo where Colin had called safety protocols low-impact optics. Spreadsheets with adjusted risk ratings, downgraded, not because conditions changed, but because budgets had. I cross-referenced file versions, time-stamped everything, stripped metadata, and encrypted the final packet, then made 3 copies, one on a flash drive, one on a secure cloud drive under an alias, and one burned to a disk I labeled, in plain black Sharpie, Truth. At 2:14 a.m., I created a burner email account and attached the packet. Subject line, Urgent, Plant Safety Failures, Arcadia Components, Anonymous Submission. The first message went to the State Labor Board, specifically the Division of Occupational Safety. The second to Jessica Brandt, a local journalist known for digging deeper than press releases. She'd once exposed a trucking company for falsifying brake inspections. I figured she'd know what to do with this. No signature, no hints, just the facts, no commentary, no threats, no demands. They'd find everything in the file, plain language, clear violations, and a pattern of decisions designed to hide risk behind jargon. I sat back and closed the laptop. My part was done, not for revenge, for accountability. Someone had to say it out loud, and I made sure they heard it, whether they wanted to or not. The next call came from a number I didn't recognize. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something in my gut said to answer. This is Eric. Mr. Gray, the voice said, smooth, corporate. This is Rebecca Lund, Chief Operating Officer at Arcadia. I understand you spoke with David earlier this week. So they'd escalated. I did. We'd like to meet, she said. Nothing formal, just a conversation. What about? Well, the plant is going through an unexpected transition, she said carefully. We're looking to bring in temporary guidance to help stabilize operations. We understand your experience is unmatched. Is that what you call 18 years? I asked. She hesitated. We're prepared to offer a competitive consulting agreement, short-term, strategic input only, no floor involvement. I pictured her rehearsing the pitch in front of a mirror, calm, composed, detached, crisis control in business, casual. You let me go without a warning, I said. No conversation, no transition, just an envelope and a hallway escort. That was before things fell apart, I interrupted. Before you needed the man you labeled as excess. She exhaled slowly. It's not personal, Mr. Graydot. It never is until someone gets hurt. There was a long pause. She wasn't used to people talking to her like that. I'm not interested, I said. We're willing to be very flexible, she offered. I'm not, I replied. Tell me something, Rebecca. When exactly did loyalty become a line item? When did experience become a liability? She didn't answer. Good luck with the transition, I said, and hung up. I stood there for a long moment, phone still in my hand. There was no satisfaction, no triumph, just clarity. They weren't looking for help. They were looking for cover. The first real story broke Monday morning. Worker injury at Arcadia plant sparks safety probe. Local news, Jessica Brandt's byline. Inside was a quote from an anonymous source. My phrasing almost word for word. She'd done her homework. By noon, OSHA issued a statement confirming a formal investigation. By Tuesday, Bloomberg Industry Watch picked it up. Stock dipped 8% in early trading. Board members began asking questions. At Arcadia, PR scrambled, generic releases, carefully worded phrases, committed to transparency. Employee well-being remains a top priority. But the story didn't go away. Too many people knew what had really happened. By Thursday, I started getting messages. Some were anonymous, others weren't. Thank you. They're listening now. Collins in over his head. They finally pulled him off shift management. Never thought someone would stand up for us. One came from Terry in logistics. OSHA inspector shadowed second shift tonight. First time I've seen them sweat in years. I read every message, saved them all. Not because I needed validation, but because it reminded me why I started this in the first place. They thought I wanted revenge. What I wanted was accountability. And now it had a name. The call came from a number I hadn't seen in years. Martin Keene, board member, retired vice president of a logistics firm. We'd met once at an efficiency summit in Chicago. I'd given a talk on modular workflow design. He asked smart questions, remembered my name. Most execs didn't. Eric, he said, his voice calm but direct, I won't take much of your time. You've already taken more than most, I replied. He chuckled softly. Fair enough. I've been reviewing the material you submitted. Thorough, dispassionate, professional. That was the goal. We've launched an internal review, he continued. Third-party auditors, full cooperation with OSHA, and we're making leadership changes. I waited. The board is creating a new role, he said. Director of Industrial Integrity. It's oversight, not management. Independent line to the board, separate from operations. That's a big title, I said. We need someone who knows where the real work happens, Martin said. Someone who remembers names, not just numbers. And you think that's me? I know it is. The systems you built still hold, even the ones that broke, especially the ones that broke. I didn't answer right away. I'm not asking you to come back to the same seat, Eric, he said. I'm asking you to help rebuild the table. There was a long silence. I'll think about it, I said finally. Good, he said. We'll be ready when you are. I walked into the boardroom at 9 a.m. sharp. No badge this time, just a visitor pass and a short nod from the security guard who still remembered me by name. The room was quieter than I remembered. No buzzwords on whiteboards, no catered coffee, just 10 people, seated and waiting. Martin stood. Eric, thank you for coming. I nodded once and placed a sealed folder on the table. These are my conditions. The new interim CEO, a woman from legal, sharp eyes, calm demeanor, opened it and scanned. Full audit authority across departments, she read aloud. Independent safety budget line, worker panel with decision input, real-time reporting on cost-cutting measures, final say on vendor compliance before contract approval. She looked up. These are comprehensive. These are the floor, I said. Unusual, she replied. So was deferring a pressure valve inspection to save $12,000. Silence. No one argued. Martin looked at the others. He comes with the authority to do it right, or not at all. The vote was quick, unanimous. The last item in the folder was a personnel reassignment notice. Dave would be transitioned to an advisory role, external, no direct reports, no decision-making authority. Your call? Martin asked. My only request, I said. As I stood to leave, the CEO extended her hand. This time I shook it. You've got until Monday to get the systems ready, she said. I never took them down, I replied. The room was still silent when I walked out. I wasn't coming back to what I left. I was coming back to make sure no one else had to leave the way I did. The floor smelled the same: machine oil, warm steel, faint tang of solvents in the air. Different crew, same rhythm. Forklifts hummed. Conveyor belts clacked. The place still breathed in shifts. I walked it slowly, no clipboard, no radio on my hip, just observation. Some heads turned, a few nodded, unsure if I was visiting or staying. Terry caught sight of me by the bulk packing line, grinned like someone seeing a ghost. Didn't think we'd see you back here, he said. Not back, I told him, forward. He nodded, and that was enough. I stopped by line 3, watched a crew lead reroute a jam without needing to shut down. Sharp work, efficient. Reminded me of someone. In the break room, I found Marcus, one of the best shift supervisors we ever had. 16 years in, quiet, consistent. The type who ran drills even when no one was looking. Got a minute? I asked. He stood up quick. Yes, sir. Don't sir me, I said. I'm not in command, I'm in support. He looked confused. You're the new plant operations liaison, I told him. Board signed off this morning. Full shift authority, reporting directly to me. His mouth opened, then closed again. He didn't know what to say. Been a long time since someone like you made the decisions, I added. He swallowed hard. I won't screw it up. I know. By afternoon, the floor knew I was staying, but not like before. No more overtime approvals or schedule drafts. That was Marcus now, and others coming up behind him. I was there to keep the guardrails intact, to make sure no one sold out safety for margin again. Upstairs, the new office was smaller than I expected. No corner windows, no assistant. Just a desk, a locked cabinet, and a monitor tuned to real-time production metrics. I sat down, opened my email. One unread message from a name I didn't recognize. Subject, glad you're back. Inside, didn't think anyone up top remembered we existed. Thanks for proving us wrong. Floor's already different. Feels safer. Feels like someone's watching who gives a damn. I stared at it for a moment, then leaned back in the chair. Outside, a machine cycled up into full gear. The plant was moving again. Only this time, so was the system meant to protect it. And this time, it wouldn't be ignored. This story was brutal, but this story on the right-hand side is even more insane.